What's up, YouTube? Feels good to be back. Gosh darn, it has been a minute. Let's get into it. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to get the best lists for wholesale marketing. So you want to go get deals, you want to get a deal right away, you want to get a lot of deals. How do you get the best lists that you can use for your marketing? Well, the first thing you want to think about is, what am I going to use this list for? There's a lot of things I can do with this list. I can cold call this list. I can send direct mail to this list. I can upload this list to Facebook and create a lookalike audience or create a retargeting campaign for this list. There's a lot of different things I can do with this list. Now, regardless of what I'm going to do with this list, the best place to get the list is bestwholesalelist.com. Now, I'm going to put that link in the description and you can check it out, but you can get lists there that come with phone numbers. And in other videos, I'll talk about, the different pros and cons of marketing. In fact, if you go back and watch the last video, I talked about, all five, right? Google pay-per-click, direct mail marketing, cold calling, text blasting, as well as what I call wholesale networking, and how you can get deals out of all five of those lead channels. So if you haven't already done so, when you get done with this video, or even right now, if you want to, jump over there, check that video out. It's amazing. But if you're going to send direct mail, you're going to send cold calls, you're going to send text blasts, whatever you're going to do like that, you're going to need phone numbers. And so with bestwholesalelist.com, you can get lists with phone numbers, and that's going to be really important. Now, there's other sources out there you can get your data from. Some of the big ones that I like are ListSource, Listability. These are pretty good ones. The caveat with these list sources is that they don't come with phone numbers. So I would only recommend going to ListSource or Listability if you are going to do a direct mail campaign. And with direct mail campaigns, what I like to do is I like to pull a fresh list every time. Because with direct mail, you're usually going to spend $10,000, $20,000 or more per month in marketing if you really expect to get leads out of direct mail. So you need to have the best data possible. I don't mind spending an extra $1,000 or $2,000 if I'm already spending 20 and making sure that list is up to the moment fresh. But with cold calling or text blasting, right, I'm okay with the list if it's several months old, maybe even if it's a year or two old before I'll refresh that list, right? With Best Wholesale Lists, I don't have to go out there and skip trace. So if you're going to do just postcards or just direct mail, then, ListSource or Listability, getting a list brand new today is probably a pretty good call, right? But if you are going to do cold calling, you got to go to bestwholesalelist.com because you got to get that list already with the phone numbers. If you get the list, from somewhere else and then you go and skip trace it, you're going to spend, in most cases, way more just to skip trace that record than what you actually paid to purchase the record. So in other words, it's more expensive to get the phone number for the record than it is to get the record itself. So I recommend all my students, I say, go to bestwholesalelist.com, get the best list there. When you've maximized out getting everything that you could with the phone number, only then would you even look at going back and buying a portion of a list that contains data that you didn't have phone numbers for those people and go skip trace those, right? So if I can go and let's say that there's a list, and this is just for example's sake, but let's say I'm going to pull a list and there's 10 records when I run this list. There's 10 houses that fit this search criteria in my city, right? But I only get phone numbers on 7 of them through bestwholesalelist.com. Well, do I want to buy those 7 and then buy the other 3 from another source and then go skip trace those 3 to get to 10? Or do I just buy those 7 from bestwholesalelist.com, slightly adjust my filters, and buy another 7 records with phone numbers? And now I've got 14 records with phone numbers, and I've still spent less than what I would have to go out there and get those other 3 phone numbers, which I would have only ended up with 10 phone numbers. Right? I don't know if that makes sense, but in other words, I would rather go to bestwholesalelist.com, find the best list, and then expand on my criteria, right? The filters that I use to pull that list, like age, demographic, year of house bill, right? Zip code, etc. I would rather adjust those filters and get as much as I can with phone numbers, where it's so much cheaper and I can get scalability and more marketing out. Because the two things that are going to get you deals, as I always talk about this, are going to be volume and consistency. You've got to be sending marketing out every day, and you've got to be sending a decent amount of it, as much as you possibly can, if you really want to crush it in wholesale real estate, right? Blood. My goodness. Leads are the blood of this business, and marketing is the heart that pumps them. I always say that, right? So you got to have a lot of data. And so by going and getting as much as you can with phone numbers, that's really going to help. Now, let's talk about those filters. Let's talk about how you niche it down to get the best list possible. Now, when it comes to calling, depending on your market, you're ultimately going to want to try to get as much as you can, all the homeowners and all the phone numbers you possibly can. Hey, if you're getting something out of this video and you haven't done so already, go to the link. I'm going to drop it in the description of this video and check out the Wholesale Accelerator. Now, if you use this link, it's actually going to give you 99% off the price, and you can get it for $37 right now. So check that out. It'll give you everything you need to be a $100,000 per month wholesaler, broken down into a 5-day course. It's amazing. Check it out. And let's get back to the video. But as you go to attack that beast, especially if you're in a big market to begin with, you want to go with the best data first. So if you're in Phoenix, LA, Miami, wherever, a big market, right? New York, Dallas, trying to give a shout out to all the different parts of the country, right? St. Louis, Michigan, Washington, Seattle. If you're in some big city, right? Then you're going to break it down. Some of my favorite search criteria to use is I want to go with people that are 65 and up. And then I'll start scaling it back down. After I've gotten that segment, I might get 55 to 65 and then 45 to 55. And then I'll just take everybody after that, right? And the thinking with that is that as your life progresses, you value convenience more. You've had more time to build up equity. So now you're at a point in your life where now you value the convenience more and you can afford the convenience more, which is why I love serving retired folks that want to sell their house, that want to hit the easy button. Because a lot of the deals we do, they're not these like terrible houses or terrible crazy situations. They're not. They're convenient sales. They're people that want to sell to us because they like us, they trust us, they like the number, they like the easy button of the transaction we're giving them. And just because we market to lists of retirees, we get a lot of deals because they love the convenience, like I said. So that's a great list. Age is huge. Also, I like to pull absentee lists. So now with absentee, that means that the owner doesn't live in the house. And you've got a couple different directions you can go with that. You can go in-state or you can go out-of-state. I like both. I like out-of-state the best, but you're going to have a lot more absentee in-state owners, meaning people that they don't live in the house. It's an investment property, but they live in the same state. You're going to have a lot more in-state investors than you're going to have out-of-state investors usually, right? So that's another good one, absentee. So we talked about age. We talked about absentee. Sometimes I'll like to put year built on my search criteria, but that's generally going to be more for disposition. In other words, what do I plan to do with the property? If I've got a small group of cash buyers that I need to sell my properties to this group while I try to build a bigger cash buyer list, and they only buy houses in certain range, then I'm probably going to break down my search criteria to that until I have more buyers, right? Or if I'm buying for my own fund, right? Like me and my business, I do a lot of nationwide marketing. We buy properties all over the country, right? For cash flow. And we have a capital fund that acquires them and then we manage them. And so there are times where we kind of want to tailor our marketing a little bit to the houses that we want to actually own. And so in those cases, year built and stuff like that can actually matter, size of the house. Other times it might not. If you're just trying to get a deal, hey, like I said, one of the biggest things is volume. So go out there and get as many phone numbers as you can, and don't even always necessarily worry as much about all these different filters, right? Like these are all great, but if you're in a smaller market too, and let's say you go, Josh, I pulled, everybody at 65 and up, and that was like 200 records. Like I pulled absentee on, that was only like 500 records. And Josh, you're telling me to like send out tens of thousands of calls per month? Like, how am I going to do that or more? Right? So in some of those situations, you are going to have to just get as much as you possibly can. And that leads me into my next thing, which is frequency, right? How often are you going to call these lists or hit these lists? And so, again, we talked about if it's going to be for direct mail, I'm probably going to pull a fresh list every single time, unless I just bought it within the last, year at most, right? But if I'm calling, I'll use that list for a while. And also, depending on what my budget is for marketing and how wide I'm going, it's going to dictate how often until I call that list again. So if you're just getting started, you buy a list of 100 homeowners and you got their phone numbers and you don't have any money, you got to sit there and smile and dial all 100 of them. And you do that. And then tomorrow you're like, crap, now what do? I already called them. Call them again, right? But the reality is if you go get another list, I would say call another list. Go back to that one, in the near future. But you can also do a couple things to the data that you already have. Now, I call these two techniques second voice and piggyback. So second voice would be simply where you had somebody else cold call them. Now, this only obviously works if you can pay someone else to call them, or if you have a partner or something like that, or a spouse that wants to help you in your business. Outside of second voice, you can do a piggyback, and that's where you just call the same list again. So you called them yesterday, you call them again today, and you say, hey, it's Josh again. That's it. I mean, that's all a piggyback is. You're just acknowledging that, hey, I already called you again, just wanted to make sure. And so you do what you can, right? And once you've maximized out the data, like we're in Phoenix, and there's literally, I think there's like 1 million homeowners in Phoenix or something close to that in the metro area. Like we call the same people all the time because we just make so many calls every single day that we go through the data. We have to, right? It's our options are call them less, which means make less calls, period, or hit our volume goals and call them more. So that's what we do. But obviously we do other marketing pieces as well. So like I said, you can go back and watch the last video I just dropped where I talk about, the other pros and cons of all the different, things like cold calling, text blasting, etc. And in the next video, which is why you gotta, if you haven't already, make sure to real quick, please smash that like button on this video. And then after that, hit subscribe, click the bell so you get notifications. Because in the next video, I'm going to talk about the best way to cold call. So how do you automate your cold calling? How do you, with a click, get thousands of calls per day? How do you make the most time-tested, proven prospecting method to ever exist, which is cold calling? And how do you turn it into an instant, predictable lead generator for your business? I'm going to discuss that and more. So before you go, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought about this video, what market you're in, and what you'd like to see in future content. And until then, go out and get yourself a deal. I know I'm gonna. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.